from stampingdough.com, and today I'm going to do the last card for this month with our Tropical Chic stamp set for the Stamping 411 series that I have been doing. So most months has 4 weeks. This month I actually started a little bit late. So this is your third project and your last project using the Tropical Chic stamp set, along with the colors of cardstock that I selected and some accessories, I guess, that I used. I think for this one, really the accessories was the framelets, and I did use some of the designer series paper as well, but I used those on previous projects. So for this one here, we're going to show you a couple of little fun techniques. So let's get started. Okay, so we're starting with 3 pieces of cardstock. This is Shaded Spruce, which is going to be our card, and it was cut to 5.5 by 8.5. And then we're just going to use the bone folder to make our score mark. And then we have the Blushing Bride, which is 4 by 5.25. And then lastly, a Whisper white piece of cardstock, which was 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, so those are the 3 cardstocks we're going to need. So we're going to start with our Whisper White. And this one you can do in a couple of different ways, but I'm going to show you the way that just uses the products that I selected to feature in this month's Stamping 411 first. So before we do the fun stamping colorful part, we're going to add our greeting. So this one here has a nice long greeting that says "with much love and thanks," and I didn't want it to just be one long horizontal greeting, so I'm going to show you what I did for that. We're going to start with some washi tape, and this is just regular washi tape that I had from Stampin' Up. If you don't have washi tape, you can use just regular Scotch tape or whatever from the dollar store, but I like my washi tape, I might as well use it. So I'm going to use just a little piece, and I'm going to cover the words that say "with much." And washi tape is really, really low tack, which is nice because you can use it and then it comes off and none of that sticky part will stay. So I'm using my Memento ink in the black, and we're just going to ink that up nicely. Now, I have done this a couple of times, so I'm going to let you know, don't forget to take this piece of washi tape off, because I've done it literally like 3 or 4 times in different cards and stamped, and it did like a nice black blob on my card, which was just so lovely. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this as straight as I can. I'm not going to fuss over it. Okay, so that's pretty good. So if you can't stamp straight, you know, practice on your paper. This one's pretty easy to get straight actually, so just practice and you'll get a nice straight line. We're going to want to wash that in between, so I'm going to use my Simply Chamois, and you can stamp some of that color off on your scrap paper first just to get some of the major color, and then we're just going to use the Simply Chamois to get the color off. See how beautifully that comes off if you do it right away? And I want to make sure that it's not completely moist before I use it for the next thing. So just wipe it off, use, you know, I use my jeans actually, or whatever you want to use to get the water off and make sure it's dry again. Okay, so for the next one, I actually had some wider washi tape, and because these words are a little wider, I'm going to use that one. So just cover those words. All right. So now I'm going to bring back in my cardstock. And we just want the "with much" words. Okay, so nice and inked. Take off your tape. I know it's silly, but I have done it. It's so funny. Anyways, okay, so now we're going to stamp that right on top and back up. You can see my words are slightly crooked on this one. I was actually more successful in my last couple of attempts to get it perfectly straight. But I don't mind, because once I get all my other stamping on here, that nobody will ever notice. So you are your worst critic, and these are handmade cards. They don't have to be perfect, and if it does bother you, don't worry. Cardstock has 2 sides. You should always have lots of Whisper White on hand because it is by far the best to stamp on. So if it's really bothering you that it's slightly crooked, then just stamp it again, and then use these other pieces for other stuff so you're not totally wasting a piece of cardstock. But I like it, so I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so for the next step, I'm using my Granny Apple Green ink pad and my shaded spruce, and we're gonna use this leaf here. I have no idea what kind of leaf that is, but anyways, it's a bigger leaf. We're just gonna say that. If you know what kind of leaf it is, let me know in the comments, because I would love to know, actually. I should look this stuff up before I start talking about it. I do not have a green thumb, which is, you know, why I have other hobbies, like stamping cards. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that I'm going to show you how to do this. One is if you don't have other materials to use, other products to use. So just like this, we're just going to use our stamping paper, and we're going to start with inking up the Granny Apple Green. I'm renaming our colors now. It's shaded spruce and Granny Apple Green. So I'm just going to ink up part of my leaf, okay? So you can see I just have a little part on there. And then for the next part, I'm going to use the darker color on just one side. I know some of you are gasping right now because I'm getting a little bit of like mixed colors on my stamp, but I'm okay with that. Worst case, I can just add a bit more re-inker. There is a piece over here that's bothering me because it wasn't inked up proper. Okay, so there you go. So you're just kind of doing like one color on one spot and another color on another spot just to give it a little bit of different look to it. Okay, so see how, I love it. See how you have like the two greens mixed together? I think that's beautiful. I hope you do too. Okay, so now we're gonna pull back in our cleaner because it's not gonna be exactly the same spots every time. And then I cleaned between every stamping, so we're going to use that lighter color first again. And then we're going to go back in and do some darker to the other side. And I always turn it upside down because you can see like right there, there's a spot that is just lighter. And you can use your ink pads just upside down too, like this, okay? So you can see a little bit better if there's spots that you're missing. So this is another way too, if you like to be a little bit more careful and just spend a little bit more time looking at making sure that there's no real white spots or separations that are bothering you. Okay, so let's do the next one. You can see I hold it on there for a few seconds because it just intensifies that color onto your card. And I just did it 3 times, so we're going to do it one more time. So I'm going to show you the second way that you can do this just using a little tool called a Dobber. You can see the Dobber has a hole, you can stick your finger in it, or you can just hold it like this, which is how I tend to want to do that. So the second way is using this Dobber, and you can actually just use this little sponge at the end of the Dobber to pick up that color and put it onto your rubber stamp. So I'm going to do the Granny Apple Green on this side and then just grab some of that shaded spruce, and you can see that you can add the color. You have a little bit more control doing it this way, and it's kind of fun. You can dauber a whole bunch of different colors on there, or you could just do the 2 like we did for this card. So you can see I'm going to stamp that, oops, right there. And there, so you can see there's a pretty big difference between that one using the Dobber and then the other one just using the ink pads. So a little bit more control, a little bit more stability, but both work just fine. Daubers come in packs of 5 if you're looking to get some. That is a really good little deal to have a little 5-pack. So anyhow, I will see you for the rest of the card. So for the next step, I've actually pre-done it just so that you don't have to wait while I do it. So I took some Granny Apple Green cardstock and I've already stamped on that leaf. And then I used our framelits that coordinate with the stamp set. And don't forget my little tip of using washi tape to keep your framelit in place. And ran it through, did 2 of those, and we're just going to use snail adhesive for these ones. Okay. Before we put our leaves on, I'm actually going to glue this layer onto my Blushing Bride cardstock, just because I really wanted the stem of my cutout to go onto some of that Blushing Bride cardstock and not just on the white. So let's get that on there first. And then when you have that, I'm going to take these and just place them where you want it to go. So we can overlap a little bit, but just go over your pink just tiny bit. I just like how it kind of continues the card past the white. All right, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to take my Shaded Spruce card backing and just glue those on. And once this step is done, I have actually already done my flowers. So I just stamped Blushing Bride on Blushing Bride cardstock, cut them out using my framelits, and because it's always fun to pop up layers, I am using my dimensionals. If you do not have dimensionals, you need dimensionals. Everybody needs dimensionals when they are card making. So add that to your wish list. All right, so let's get that backing off. And things are good in threes. I don't know if you've learned that odd numbers are often better when you're designing things, and doing visual triangles as well is nice. So you can see I have a visual triangle, and it just makes the card look a little bit better. So that's basically it. So you've learned how you can use stamps in different ways. We can ink up stamps using different colors. And I wouldn't do this technique if the colors were super different. I wouldn't have used that light pink with a green, but to me using two greens together just kind of off to the side is not that bad. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this week's project, and next month in October I am going to use a different stamp set with different featured products. So I hope you'll see me back next week. Bye!